Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, March 31st, 2024, in the space and time continuum. It's called Trump Does His Own SNL Skit. You probably know what that is. It's the thing everybody's been talking about. So I don't need to talk about it for very long. And, of course, SNL did a skit about it already last night. We saw that coming, but it was half as funny as Donald Trump's SNL skit that he did with his silly Bible. I'm partnering with a great guy, Lee Greenwood, and who doesn't love Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA? Me, I'm somebody who hates that song and always has. I bet $100 that you agree with me. It's the kind of thing that yeah. So I'm not going to talk too much about the Bible. You've heard about it. It's an ugly cover. It says, God bless the USA, and it's the Bible. And it's the King James Version, which there's no way he could read it. You know, the King James Version is unreadable by most people anyway. It's centuries-old language. Midas Touch, of course, looked into this, which other people could have too, but leave it to them to do this. They did a deep dive and you know, it's Donald's the only Bible endorsed by me. As if people want their Bible endorsed by a 2 times divorced guy who had sex with a porn star while his wife was home pregnant with their kid. But what they found out is that Lee Greenwood actually came out with this Bible in 2021 to commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11, apparently. Lee Greenwood's trying to sell Bibles. Lee Greenwood's only known for that one song. Do you know any other Lee Greenwood songs? Does anybody know any other Lee Greenwood songs? But the funny thing is, back then in 2021, people were complaining that they were ordering the Bible and not receiving it. They would want it for a gift for somebody, and they couldn't get it in time for their birthday or whatever. So Midas Touch found this video, 2 little video clips of Lee Greenwood some night because he was getting so many complaints about the shipment of the Bible. I wish you could see it, but this is Lee Greenwood, like in his basement, with a huge pile of these Bibles that had nothing to do with Trump, certainly back then. But here, listen to this.
Hi, this is Lee Greenwood, and as you see, we're doing our very best to sign all these Bibles that have been requested and get them out to you before Christmas. God bless you all. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday.
That's Lee Greenwood in his basement. Or maybe his garage. I mean, that's what it looks like. He's trying to get Bibles out the door, and he's trying to tell everybody, hey, don't worry. This is another clip then of later in the night where he's got a bunch of Bibles packaged up, and he's got them in the back of his pickup truck. They're not in a delivery truck. They're in the back of his pickup truck. Tells you how many Bibles during the busy Christmas season he was selling. So he himself has them in the back of his pickup truck, and here's what he's saying in this video.
Well, it's 12:30 in the morning, and these are going to the post office right now. Shipping our Bibles to you. Merry Christmas.
Lee Greenwood, everybody. Lee Greenwood. Enough about the Bible, but it's mockable, it's viral. It reminds people of how sick of him we are and why we don't like him. These stupid Trump stunts and the sneakers. The sneakers were also just, you know, you can get gold sneakers just like the Trump ones for like $19, but then he puts a little T applique on it and sells them for what I can't remember, but it was just absolutely incredible. And of course he thinks the blacks are going to love it. African-American people, of course, how do you feel about those sneakers and him thinking, this is going to pick up the black vote a lot. They love sneakers. I mean, we played clips from back in the sneaker days where somebody actually said that on Fox News, the fascist Pee Wee Herman on Fox News. Said, they love their sneakers. And then coupled up with now the attacks on DEI. Supposed to stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're renaming it. They're so clever with all of this stuff. They're as clever as like a sophomore high school boy. They're saying it stands for, DEI stands for didn't earn it. And they put blame on the mayor of Baltimore because he's black, and the crew of the ship that hit the bridge in Baltimore that made the Key Bridge collapse are from India. So they have brown skin, and the GOP is blaming DEI on that bridge collapse, if you can believe it or not. Another thing that happened this week. Man, what a week. This week seemed, I was going through all of my notes and finding clips and the notes of things I want to talk about. The things that go back to like Monday seem like it was more than a month ago. I mean, we're not even talking about that bridge collapse anymore. There's so many different things going on. It's just kind of insane. So that's how the GOP thinks they're gaining the black vote, by calling DEI didn't earn it. Yeah. They only hire black people, so the black people didn't earn it. Today is Easter Sunday. Usually Easter is earlier than this, I believe, or later than this. I don't know. I don't keep track of Easter. I'm not the biggest Easter fan. Has nothing to do if you're into it, if you're a Christian and you're into it. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying eating ham till I feel sick is not a thing I enjoy. So this year it's on March 31st, which also happens to be Transgender Recognition Day. And it has been since 2009. And the Republicans are saying that Biden is being disrespectful of Christians because these 2 days go together this particular year. So again, gaining the transgender vote, gaining the black vote. Nikki Haley voters are not allowed to vote for Trump. Trump doesn't want your vote, nor if you're a donor. So he's pushing away money. He's pushing away voters. Another thing that he's doing, this is from the Washington Post. In December, Donald Trump called for the end of mail-in voting in presidential elections. In February, he told Michigan voters that mail-in voting is totally corrupt. He later told Fox News host Laura Ingraham that if you have mail-in balloting, you automatically have fraud. And then later on, the ballots are a disaster. Anytime the mail is involved, you're going to have cheating. It's too bad people don't say it. They don't want to say it. These are actual quotes from Trump. That message is complicating plans by officials at Trump's campaign and the Republican National Committee to orchestrate aggressive efforts in key battleground states to persuade voters to cast their ballots early and by mail. RNC Chairman Michael Whatley, the crazy guy that they just hired along with Laura Trump, said the party would spend considerable money, although they don't have considerable money. So, going back to the article, he would not say how much they're going to spend to encourage voters to vote by mail. So the Republicans are really having trouble getting their people motivated to vote by mail because Trump won't shut his yap. Pushing away. And that is recognized, of course, by the Biden campaign. Now I'm going to read from a Daily Beast article. Just a few months ago, it was hard to see the ingredients of a Joe Biden comeback. The president began the election year with his approval rating in historic lows. I don't know about that. He was trailing Donald Trump in almost all of the key battleground states, according to the polls, as well as the national polling averages. Right. Influential liberals were so concerned that the incumbent candidate did not have another campaign in him, and some were openly calling for him to be replaced as the nominee. Stupidly. As the general election kicks off this spring, however, those calls have quieted because several important data points are lining up to demonstrate he is picking up badly needed momentum. For the first time in a long time, there's good news for Biden on the polling front. Gradual improvements in the battleground states, along with an uptick in his approval rating, led one Democratic strategist, Simon Rosenberg, to declare the Biden bump. Simon Rosenberg is somebody that we can rely on for good information. He was not worried at the beginning of this year, nor was I, because I listen to people like him. The boost is at a very least correlated with Biden's fiery State of the Union address on March 7th, when he repeatedly went after his predecessor and made sure to mix it up with Republicans in the chamber. Just like we said, the Biden campaign had not yet begun in February. A lot of people think of that State of the Union speech as being the kickoff to his new campaign. Also, since then, Biden's team has continued the punchy, combative tone on display that night, using press releases to cheekily slam their legally challenged opponent as Broke Don. Also, trending this week was Don Corleone. Okay. On top of that, the Biden campaign has continued to flex what has always been its core strength, fundraising. $53 million in February. Trump brought in 20. Less than half. Quite a bit less than half. And then, of course, what was it, this last Thursday, Biden pulled in $26 million in one night. So Biden's got something like 5 times more money or more than what Trump has. Since his State of the Union, Biden has visited every major battleground state. Trump, on the other hand, has only done a rally in Ohio and another in the battleground state of Georgia since Super Tuesday. Otherwise, it's mostly been he's in Mar-a-Lago or sitting in a court in Manhattan. Now, here's another thing. This is what happens when you have money in a campaign. The Biden campaign is going full steam ahead on hiring in those battleground states, approaching 100 field offices with more than 130 staffers spread across 8 major battleground states. The most important ones, of course. I'm not going to name them. Such investments mean that Biden can begin the crucial work of mobilizing voters early. The Trump campaign, by comparison, could not tell the Daily Beast whether they have made any additional hires or opened any field offices in those battleground states. Oh, is that something we should be doing? Why are you asking me that? Is that as somebody heading up Trump's campaign, are you suggesting that's something that I should be thinking about? Hiring field staff? This is what we've talked about many times on this show. If you don't have the money to run a campaign, then you can't run a campaign. Trump is not running a campaign. It's not going to start. His campaign is never going to start. He doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the money. I have been parts of campaigns where the candidate didn't have the time and or the money. And you lose. And another thing, do you see George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, or Mike Pence joining Trump for a fundraising event? No, they're all pretty much probably going to vote for Biden. None of them will even endorse Trump. They don't want to talk about it. Mike Pence has talked about it. He's announced, no, there's no way I can endorse Trump. And there was also an event this week with Liz Cheney in Des Moines, Iowa, in a stadium that looked kind of like it was probably a college basketball stadium size. So, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people. But there was not an empty seat in the House. Liz Cheney spoke. And there are rumors that in the coming weeks, Liz Cheney is going to endorse Joe Biden for president. It's just getting insane. I mean, it's just getting insane. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some more insanity. Is Alabama turning blue? When we come back on A Satellite View. on a satellite view. Todd Mikkelson back with you. If you like the music, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music link, and you can find a whole bunch of music that I've worked on over the many years that I worked on music, including some brand new music I just released 2 weeks ago. So let's go down to Alabama. Red state, southern red state. They have crazy laws down there about women's reproductive rights. There was a special election. Republican David Cole, who was the holder of the House District 10 seat in Alabama, he was arrested on voter fraud charge. And so he had to resign. So there was a special election held on a Tuesday, just this last Tuesday, in March, where you would think people would not realize it's going on. In fact, I didn't realize it was going on until after it was done. So, of course, you think, well, they found a Republican and a Democrat to run, and, of course, the Republican trounced the Democrat. Even in 2022, the Democrat got 47% of the vote, and that was a huge improvement. And that was partially because of women's reproductive rights. But if you remember in 2022, Roe v. Wade wasn't overturned until something like June or July. So there were only a couple months left of campaigning before the 2022 midterms. The Democrat was able to bring the numbers up to 47 in 2022. And that person's name is Marilyn Lands. She this time then ran again in 2024 for this special election. She won 62% of the vote. District 10 in Alabama is no longer red. It's been red for decades and decades, if not longer. And now it's blue. Marilyn Lands got 62.3% of the vote. The Republican got 37.5% of the vote. When I ran in an impossible district in 2012, people called me a sacrificial lamb for the Democratic Party. Everyone knew I was going to get creamed. The base vote for Democrats in the district I live in was 29%. You could count on 29% of the vote going toward the Democratic Party. 29%. I brought it up to 38%. Everyone thought I was some kind of hero. I still felt like I got my ass handed to me and my teeth knocked out of my head. But apparently, that was a big deal to improve the numbers. So in a really, really, really red district in Minnesota, I got more than a Republican got in Alabama for a state house seat. Just let this sink in. Now, if she would have won, 51 to 49, it still would have been a surprise. She beat him by 25 points, 25 percentage points. And the Republicans' polls, internal polling, predicted he was going to win by 5 or 6 points. And they were still kind of nervous because that was too close for comfort. Her polls thought it was going to be very, very tight. Tighter than what his polls. Both of their polls, look how wrong their polls were. What do I keep telling you? 25 percentage points, and there's not a single poll that saw any of the like coming. Same happened in Kansas in 2023 or 2, I can't remember anymore. Kansas, Nebraska, Ohio, Virginia. Right now in Florida, women's reproductive health care is on the ballot because they got 900,000 signatures to get it on the ballot. 150,000 of those were Republicans in Florida. This is why I'm telling you, I think Biden's going to win Ohio. I think Biden's going to win the states that he did win, Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, the battleground states. Right now, what's going on in North Carolina is insane. Their gubernatorial race, the Republicans picked a guy who said he wants America to go back to the time when women couldn't vote. He thinks women shouldn't be allowed to vote. He's a Holocaust denier. He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. North Carolina is going to have, the vote is going to get out against that guy, if anything. The North Carolina Democratic Party and the chairman of the Democratic Party in North Carolina is doing a really smart thing. Okay, let's go back to 2012. In my district, when I ran in 2012, I would go to the senatorial district committee meetings, and there would maybe be 2 people there. Now, there's a room full of people because everyone wants to be a part of it. We got Kelly Morrison, the big rising star. You know, we've got really good candidates coming up. But back in 2012, we often didn't have any candidate in my district. The Democrats wouldn't even have a candidate. In North Carolina, there are districts like that. But this year, the Democratic Party is making sure they have a candidate in all of those districts. And just like most every other state in the United States, the Republican Party in North Carolina has no money, and the Democratic Party has a lot of money. So they're able to do this, and they're doing a sort of a reverse coattails effect, trying to get people engaged by their local candidate in those red districts. So people who often sit at home because they're like, it doesn't matter if I vote. We're just always going to lose, always going to lose. Why should I vote? Hey, meet this person. They're a great candidate. They're your Democratic candidate. Wow, I'm going to vote this year. And then I'm going to vote all the way up to Biden. That's going on in North Carolina. Really smart. And with the Republicans picking this guy to run as their gubernatorial candidate, he's going to get the Democratic vote out just the same way Trump gets the Democratic vote out. I think there's a really good chance Biden's going to win North Carolina. And I think there's a fair chance Biden's going to win Florida. And everyone's talking all scared. Yes, it comes down to battleground states with just a few, tens of thousands of votes. That's how we lost in 2016. Jill Stein took away enough votes in those battleground states to make Hillary lose those states. Hillary still beat Trump by more than 3 million votes, but she lost the Electoral College. And that's what everyone's all scared of. But look what is going on. The polls have not predicted any of these elections since Roe v. Wade was overturned. That one issue alone is winning all of these elections, and not just by a little bit, by a lot in these deep red states. Trump is pushing away voters, like we talked about in the first segment, and he needs to gain voters. He needs to turn 7 million people who voted for Joe Biden, he needs to change their minds into voting for him. Instead, he's taking the votes he already got in 2020 and pushing them out the window and telling people not to mail in their ballots. How does the Republican Party then in Alabama, how do they react? The head of their committee, I believe, he says, Democrats are good at talking about abortion. It's time Republicans started talking about protecting our children from woke policies in our schools. It's time we start saying, you know what? We can tell the difference between a man and a woman. And maybe we should leave these divisive concepts out of our education system. They're pushing away voters too. Here on Transgender Recognition Day, they're saying, hey, we can tell the difference between a man and a woman. That's an attack on transgender people. Woke policies in our schools. Are we sick of that yet? I mean, I don't think he got the memo. The national Republicans aren't even really going there anymore. They all got their asses handed to them in the last elections, these crazy groups trying to pass themselves off as concerned parents trying to protect children in the schools. Blatty, blatty, blah. That's how the Republicans are reacting. And, of course, they can't say how much money they're going to spend on trying to get their message out because they have no money. Democrats are still scared. Oh, my God. Is Biden going to win? I don't know. I don't mind being scared. I don't mind them being scared. We need to get the vote out. We need everybody mobilized. We need to be as well organized as possible. But we don't need to be scared. Fear is a good motivator. Now, I'm scared to death what will happen if Trump became president again. So there's no way I'm going to miss my vote. And I'm working at my local convention. I'm working with the local candidates. We got a great new local candidate here in this district running for the state house. Just got up and running 6 weeks ago or so. She's going to be incredible. I can already tell. Working with her. You know, we're trying to help at every level. And that's what we got to do. Because, yeah, I'm scared of Trump becoming president. But I'm not scared that we just got to do the work. And really, all we got to do is vote. Make sure everyone votes. If you don't want to work for a campaign, if you don't have money to give to a candidate, just vote. Just vote. That's all you got to do. Make sure you vote. If everyone in this country votes, the Republican Party will be extinct forever. And it's really looking like we have a chance of that here in 2024. Here's a smart guy, Tim Miller. You've heard me talk about him before. I think I've even played clips of him. He's an ex-Republican. He used to work on Republican campaigns, big ones, presidential campaigns. He knows a lot about politics, and he's a really smart guy. Here's something that he said that I think is, the ending is funny. This is good messaging.
Donald Trump scammed you. He defrauded you. He stole your money to pay for his own ritzy lifestyle. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is investing in your communities with the CHIPS Act and with the Infrastructure Act. I think that'd be at least a fun message to put on Fox and Newsmax to shake the tree a little bit. And I think that maybe that there are certain types of voters that are in these areas but aren't deep in the Trump cult that might be persuaded by this, because it is absolutely outrageous that the man who runs his whole campaign complaining to care about the forgotten man, and they all wag their fingers at us and say we're East Coast elitists, we don't care about regular people. He's robbing regular people. He's robbing them to pay for his own fancy lifestyle with the Cougars at Mar-a-Lago.
The Cougars at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I would have named this show The Cougars at Mar-a-Lago if he hadn't made it up. But he needs to take the credit. He's suggesting the Biden campaign do this kind of messaging. And I believe they're going to come really close to that. They already are. They're hitting Trump pretty hard. There are ads coming out now because Biden's campaign is starting. It's started. It's going. Trump's is not. It hasn't started. My friend, I've talked about him before. He called me on Monday because he was so mad about Trump getting let off by, this Monday, which also seems like a month ago, was the day that Trump was supposed to come up with the, about $500 million. Sounds weird now. I haven't talked about this for a little bit. $500 million. I had to stop myself. No, I mean $500,000? No, $500 million. $500 million. And an appellate court said, no, if you, within the next 10 days, pay $175 million, then you can appeal. He hasn't, by the way, paid $175 million, so it looks like he's having trouble getting that as well. So my friend called me, and he was pissed. And it was in a short period of time before Judge Marchand announced the date of the trial for the Stormy Daniels trial. So, we were bummed, and it was like, yeah, Trump seems like he always gets away with everything. And then my friend said, it's just be so much easier to be a MAGA, right? I mean, I'm so sick of being against Trump and being disappointed all the time by all the court decisions. And if we're cheering for Trump, then we have a big win like every week. It would be so easy to just become a MAGA. Not to mention, you got the pins, you got the hats, you got the flags. I just think it would be easier to become a MAGA. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good point. It's almost like all of a sudden you're a little kid again and you're just going to the amusement park every day. And he said, yeah. So then we hung up, and Shortly after that, the news came out that Marchand pretty much has had it with Trump's lawyers and Trump himself, and called the trial that he was having, it was supposed to be 2 days. He called it off after like 2 hours and just said, screw this, shut up. The trial is starting on April 15th, period. So I wrote that to my friend. I texted, and then he texted back and said, it's too late. I already got my MAGA hat. So we lost somebody. I lost a friend to the MAGAs. It's sad. I'm in mourning. Not too bad, though, because he's still going to vote for Biden. It's just that he's going to hang out with the MAGAs for a while and have fun cheering on Trump in all of his... he's not winning. He's pissed off Judge Marchand, and Marchand seems different than the other judges. Trump is pushing him to the edge. Posted photos of his daughter. It's terrorism. I don't know. Trump seems to really want a showdown. I don't know. If I was in his position, I would be being really nice to all the judges. I mean, is pissing off your judge smart? Is that a smart thing to do? Now, also, because this trial now is starting on the 15th of April, it opens up a huge possibility then that the J6 trial can start in this summer. Maybe like in July, and be done before Election Day. Things are starting to kind of fall in place like that. Even the smart people I listen to, the Midas Touch guys and people like that are saying, yeah, this is kind of a surprise because this trial will probably last about 6 weeks. He's going to be convicted. People who are convicted of that crime usually go to prison. I have no idea if Trump's going to go to prison. I just don't even know how that would work. Oh, also, Trump's Secretary of Defense, Esper, almost said on TV this week that he's going to vote for Biden. He said the door gets open wider and wider each time Trump opens his mouth. So that's the thing. We got to get going here because I've kept you long again, but things are lining up in a really good way. We're getting closer and closer to Election Day. The polls are becoming slightly more listenable. Listening to them 6 months ago was just dumb. But now, starting now, everything just gets more serious. More people are paying attention. We're finding that people say something in the poll and then act differently. You got to watch what the voters are doing on Election Day. Not what they're saying to a pollster, but what they're doing. Like I said, in Kansas, Nebraska, Ohio, Florida, all these places. And now Alabama. A House seat in Alabama by 25 points. Things are really, really turning. They really, really are turning. So remember that as you go through the week. We're all here to help each other get through this craziness. I hope I'm helping you feel a little better about things. You're making me feel better just by listening. Thank you so much. We'll help each other argue for things that are good and argue against things that are bad. We'll stick together through this. Vote and we win. Period. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.